The helicopter was supposed to take off in 30 minutes. Amara knew it would never land. She stood in the middle of the five-star restaurant, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it over the classical music. The man at table 7, billionaire tech CEO Preston Caldwell, was signing his check, completely unaware that he had 20 minutes left to live. Her manager was already crossing the floor, his expression murderous. She'd interrupted a guest. She'd be fired on the spot. But Amara didn't move. "Sir," she said, her voice cutting through the quiet dining room, "don't get on that helicopter tonight. It's not safe." Preston looked up, annoyed. "Excuse me?" What he didn't know was that the girl standing in front of him, the one he was about to dismiss with a laugh, had just made a choice that would cost her everything, and save them both. 6 hours earlier, the alarm went off at 5:47 a.m. Amara didn't need it. She'd been awake for 20 minutes already, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a question mark. She slipped out of bed quietly. In the next room, her 3 siblings were still asleep. Destiny, 14, curled up with a textbook she'd fallen asleep reading. Jordan, 11, sprawled across his mattress like a starfish. Isaiah, 7, clutching the stuffed bear their mother had given him before she died. 5 years. It still didn't feel real. Amara moved through the apartment on muscle memory. The kitchen was the size of a closet. She pulled out the last of the bread, made 4 sandwiches with peanut butter spread thin, wrapped them in napkins from the restaurant. Breakfast and lunch combined. On the counter, 2 envelopes waited like landmines. The first was a final notice. Eviction proceedings would begin in 30 days. The second was a rejection letter from the Community College Scholarship Program. Due to high volume of applications, they regretted informing her. Amara had dropped out 8 months ago when the restaurant offered her full-time hours. Someone had to pay rent. Someone had to keep the lights on. She'd thought it was temporary. She folded both letters and shoved them in her bag. Destiny couldn't see them. The girl, already worried too much, had stopped smiling the way she used to. "You're leaving early again." Destiny's voice came from the doorway. She stood in an oversized t-shirt, her hair wrapped, her eyes too old for 14. "Uncle Raymond needs lunch dropped off," Amara lied. "You said that yesterday. He forgets to eat." Destiny didn't believe her, but she didn't push. "When are you coming back to school?" "Soon." "You said that last month." Amara grabbed her bag. "Get Jordan and Isaiah up. Make sure they brush their teeth." "Amara, I have to go." She left before her sister could ask more questions she couldn't answer. Chicago Executive Heliport sat on the edge of the city like a glass and steel promise. Private helicopters lined the tarmac, sleek and expensive, ready to lift their owners above the traffic, above the noise, above everything. Amara's Uncle Raymond had worked here for 23 years, head of maintenance, the man who made sure rich people didn't fall out of the sky. She found him in the hangar, crouched beside a black helicopter, his coveralls stained with grease. He looked up when she approached, and his weathered face broke into a smile. "You didn't have to bring lunch, baby girl. You forget to eat. Destiny told you to say that, didn't she?" Amara handed him the sandwich. He took it, then gestured at the helicopter with his wrench. A bright red tag hung from the door handle. "See this bird? N847PX. Some charter company wanted to send her up tonight. I told them absolutely not. Hydraulic system's leaking. She'd make it 20 minutes in the air, maybe less, before the whole thing seizes up." Amara stared at the tail number. Something cold settled in her stomach. "What happens if someone flies it anyway?" "They don't. That's what the red tag means. Federal law. You fly a red-tagged aircraft, you lose your license, you go to jail, and if you're real unlucky, you die screaming." He said it matter of fact, the way he said everything. Raymond had seen too much to sugarcoat. "You learn all this from Mom?" Amara asked quietly. Raymond's expression softened. Your mama was the best aviation mechanic I ever knew. She taught me half of what I know. He paused. She'd be proud of you taking care of those kids. Amara's throat tightened. I'm not doing a great job. You're 19 and you're keeping them fed and in school. That's more than great. She wanted to tell him about the eviction notice, about the rejected scholarship, about how she woke up every morning feeling like she was drowning. Instead, she pulled out her phone and took a picture of the red tag and the tail number. For your records, she said. Raymond nodded. Are you working tonight? Double shift, Laurence. That fancy place? Can you save me any of those little cakes? They count them, Uncle Ray. He laughed. Rich people. Amara kissed his cheek and left. She didn't know that in 11 hours she'd be staring at that same tail number on a billionaire's phone screen. She didn't know she'd have to choose between her future and a stranger's life. But somewhere deep down, in the place where her mother's voice still lived, she already knew what choice she'd make. Laurence smelled like money. Not the sharp new car smell of sudden wealth, but the deep settled scent of generational fortune. Aged wine, fresh flowers replaced daily, wood polish on tables that cost more than Amara's rent. She arrived at 4:30 p.m. for the dinner shift. The kitchen was already alive with controlled chaos. Chefs moved like surgeons. Every plate was a work of art that would be destroyed in minutes by people who barely tasted it. Amara changed into her uniform in the cramped staff room. Black dress, white apron, her braids pulled back tight. She checked her reflection in the cloudy mirror. Professional. Invisible. Exactly what they wanted. Her phone buzzed. A text from Destiny. Isaiah has a fever. Should I take him to the clinic? The clinic cost $60 just to walk through the door. They didn't have $60. Amara texted back. Give him the children's Tylenol in the cabinet. I'll check on him when I get home. She hoped it was just a cold. She couldn't afford for it to be anything else. The manager, Douglas Carter, found her as she was clocking in. He was 40-something, always tired. The kind of man who'd worked in restaurants so long he'd forgotten what daylight looked like. Amara, I need to talk to you. Her stomach dropped. Did I do something wrong? No, you're fine. It's just... He rubbed his face. Corporate's cutting labor costs again. I have to reduce everyone's hours next month. By how much? 10 hours a week. 10 hours. That was $200. The difference between rent and eviction. Douglas, I can't... I need those hours. I know. I'm sorry. If I could give you more, I would. He looked genuinely apologetic. You're one of my best servers, but my hands are tied. Amara felt the walls closing in, the eviction notice, the scholarship rejection. Now this. Is there anything else I can pick up? Catering, private events? I'll let you know if something comes up. Douglas paused. You okay? She forced a smile. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. She was drowning. But Douglas didn't need to hear that. The dining room opened at 5. Amara fell into the rhythm she knew by heart. Greet, recommend, serve, smile, disappear. She was good at disappearing. At 5:47 p.m., she noticed the reservation list on the host stand. Table 7. Victoria Ashford, party of 4. Even Amara knew that name. Real estate magnate, billionaire. The kind of woman who owned buildings instead of living in them. She'd been coming to Laurence for years, always ordered the same thing, always tipped exactly 20%. The kind of rich person who followed rules. At 6:15, Victoria Ashford arrived. She was smaller than Amara expected. Elegant. Silver hair cut sharp. A black dress that probably cost more than Amara made in a year. She walked like someone who'd built an empire and didn't need to prove it anymore. With her, a younger woman, expensively dressed. A man in his 50s, quiet. And a man in his 30s who walked in like he owned the place. Douglas seated them personally. "Ms. Ashford, always a pleasure." "Douglas?" Victoria smiled. "How's your daughter? Still at Northwestern?" "Dean's List last semester." "Good for her." Amara watched from across the room. Victoria Ashford remembered the manager's daughter. That was the difference between old money and new. Old money learned your name. Douglas assigned Amara to table 7. She approached with water glasses, her hands steady. "Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink?" Victoria looked up. "Sparkling water for the table, please, and give us a few minutes with the menu." The man in his 30s didn't look up from his phone. He was handsome in that expensive way, good haircut, perfect teeth, a watch that could pay Amara's rent for 6 months. As Amara poured the water, she caught pieces of their conversation. "Preston, you promised to consider the youth jobs program," Victoria said. The man, Preston, barely looked up. "Aunt Vicky, charity doesn't scale. I invest in winners. You used to be a winner, before wealth made you careless." Preston laughed, still typing on his phone. "I'm worth $800 million. I think I'm doing fine." Victoria's expression tightened, but she said nothing. Amara refilled the glasses and stepped back, invisible again. At 6:43 p.m., she returned to take their orders. As she set down the appetizers, Preston's phone lit up on the table. A calendar notification. Helicopter departure, 8:00 p.m. Tail number, N847PX. Amara's blood went cold. She stared at the screen. The same number, the same helicopter her uncle had red-tagged that morning. Preston was going to die tonight, and he had no idea. Amara's hands didn't shake as she set down the appetizers. Years of practice. You could be dying inside and your hands would stay steady. But her mind was racing. N847PX, red-tagged, hydraulic failure, 20 minutes in the air, maybe less. Preston Caldwell was still typing on his phone, completely unaware that he'd just scheduled his own death. She should walk away. Finish the shift. Go home to her siblings. This wasn't her problem, but she could see it so clearly. The helicopter lifting off, the hydraulics failing, the spin, the fall, the explosion. She'd heard her uncle describe crashes before, the way metal screamed, the way people didn't have time to scream. Her mother had died in a workplace accident because someone ignored a safety warning. Amara couldn't walk away. She stepped closer to the table. "Excuse me, sir." Preston didn't look up. "We're fine, thanks." "Sir, I need to tell you something." He glanced up, annoyed. "What is it?" The entire table was looking at her now. Victoria's sharp eyes, the other guests. Across the dining room, Douglas had noticed. He was watching. Amara's voice came out steady. "I saw your calendar notification, the helicopter you're taking tonight. N847PX. You can't fly on it." Preston blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "That aircraft was red-tagged this morning. The hydraulic system is failing. If you take off, you'll crash." The table went silent. Preston stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Then he laughed. Not a kind laugh. The laugh of someone who thought this was the most absurd thing he'd ever heard. "And how exactly would you know that?" "My uncle is the head of maintenance at Chicago Executive Heliport. I was there this morning when he tagged it. It's federal law. That helicopter cannot fly." Preston's smile faded. "Your uncle?" "Yes, sir." "And you think you can just interrupt my dinner to tell me about helicopters?" His voice was cold now. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "I know you're about to die if you get on that aircraft." Victoria leaned forward, her expression unreadable. She said nothing, just watched. Preston stood up. "This is ridiculous. Douglas, The manager was already crossing the floor, his face tight with barely controlled anger. "Ms. Williams, step away from the table. Now!" Amara didn't move. "Sir, please, just call the heliport. Ask them to check the maintenance logs. The tail number is N847PX. It's there in black and white." "Amara," Douglas's voice was sharp. "Back of house. Immediately." Preston was still standing, his face red. "I want her fired. Right now." "Sir, I apologize profusely." Douglas grabbed Amara's arm. "This will be handled." Amara pulled free. She looked directly at Preston. "I don't care if you believe me. I don't care if I lose my job. But if you get on that helicopter tonight, you will die. And I can't let that happen without trying to stop it." The dining room had gone completely silent. Every guest was watching. Phones were out. Someone was recording. Douglas's grip tightened on her arm. "Now, Amara." Victoria Ashford spoke for the first time, her voice quiet but clear. "Let her finish." Douglas frozen. Victoria looked at Amara. "What's your name?" "Amara Williams, ma'am." "Amara, why would a charter company let someone fly a red-tagged aircraft?" "I don't know, ma'am, but it happens. Greed, pressure. Sometimes people die because someone didn't want to lose money." Victoria's eyes flickered with something. Recognition, maybe, or respect. Preston cut in. "Aunt Vicky, she's clearly making this up." "Is she?" Victoria looked at her nephew. "Call the heliport, Preston. Right now. This is insane." "Call them." Preston stared at his aunt, then pulled out his phone and walked toward the entrance. Douglas pulled Amara toward the back hall. "My office. Now." Douglas's office was small and smelled like old coffee. He closed the door and turned to face Amara, his exhaustion replaced by something harder. "What the hell were you thinking? He's going to die. That's not your concern. Your concern is serving food and not harassing guests." "I wasn't harassing him. I was trying to save his life." Douglas rubbed his temples. "You approached a table. You read a guest's private phone. You made accusations about aircraft safety. Do you understand how insane that sounds?" "It's true." "I don't care if it's true." His voice cracked. "Amara, I like you. You're a good worker. But I can't protect you from this. Preston Caldwell is worth $800 million. If he wants you gone, you're gone. If he wants this restaurant sued, we're sued. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Then why did you do it?" Amara met his eyes. "Because my mother died when someone ignored a safety warning. And I won't watch another person die when I could have stopped it." Douglas stared at her. For a moment, something like sympathy crossed his face. Then it was gone. "Get your things. You're suspended pending review." "Douglas, I'm sorry, I really am." He opened the door. "Go home, Amara." She walked through the kitchen in a daze. The chefs didn't look at her. The other servers pretended to be busy. Everyone knew. In a restaurant, bad news traveled faster than fire. She grabbed her bag from the staff room and left through the back exit. The parking lot was cold. November in Chicago felt like a promise and a threat. Winter was coming. She needed that job. She needed those hours. She'd just thrown it all away for a man who laughed at her. Her phone buzzed. Destiny. "Isaiah's fever is getting worse." Amara typed back with shaking hands. "I'm coming home." Then she stopped. Home was 30 minutes on the L train. The heliport was 15 minutes in the opposite direction. Preston's helicopter was scheduled to leave at 8. It was 7:32. She could go home, take care of her brother, pretend she'd tried. Or she could finish what she started. Her uncle's voice echoed in her head. "You fly a red-tagged aircraft, you die screaming." Amara turned toward the train station. She ran. The L train crawled through the city like it had all the time in the world. Amara stood by the doors, watching the minutes tick by on her phone. 7:41, 7:48, 7:53. She called the heliport. The phone rang 6 times before someone picked up. Chicago Executive Heliport. I need to speak to Raymond Williams. It's an emergency. He left for the day, miss. Then I need to report an unsafe aircraft, tail number N847PX. It was red tagged this morning, and someone's about to fly it. I'll need you to file a formal report. Let me transfer you to... There's no time. The flight leaves in 7 minutes. Ma'am, I can't just... The line went to hold music. Amara wanted to scream. At 7:58, the train pulled into the station. She ran across the platform, down the stairs, across 2 streets. Her lungs burned. Her server shoes weren't made for running. The heliport appeared ahead, lit up like a small airport. Through the fence, she could see the helicopters. The black one on the far pad. N847PX. A man in an expensive suit was walking toward it. Preston Caldwell. The rotors were already spinning. Amara didn't think. She ran toward the gate. A security guard stepped out of the booth. Miss, you can't. She ducked past him and sprinted across the tarmac. Hey, stop! The wind from the rotors nearly knocked her down. She kept running. Preston was climbing into the helicopter. The pilot was doing his pre-flight check. Stop! Amara screamed. Don't take off! The pilot looked up, confused. Preston turned, and his expression went from confusion to fury when he saw her. The security guard caught up, grabbed her arm. Ma'am, you're trespassing! That helicopter is red-tagged, Amara shouted over the noise. Check your maintenance logs. It's going to crash. The pilot frowned. He said something to Preston, then climbed out of the cockpit and walked toward the hangar office. Preston stepped down from the helicopter, his face dark. You've got to be kidding me. You followed me here? I'm trying to save your life. You're insane, and you're fired, and I'm going to make sure you never work in this city again. The security guard was pulling her back. Sir, I'm sorry. I'll have her removed. The pilot came back, walking fast. He was holding a clipboard. His expression had changed. Mr. Caldwell, we have a problem. Preston turned. What? This aircraft was red-tagged at 7:14 this morning. Hydraulic system failure. The charter company didn't inform me. This bird is grounded. The tarmac went silent except for the wind. Preston stared at the pilot. What are you saying? I'm saying if we'd taken off, we'd have crashed. The pilot looked at Amara. How did you know? My uncle red-tagged it this morning. Raymond Williams, head of maintenance. The pilot nodded slowly. I know Ray. He doesn't make mistakes. An FAA inspector was already walking across the tarmac, called by the on-hold emergency line Amara had been transferred to. Behind him, 2 more security guards. The inspector looked at the clipboard, then at the helicopter, then at Preston. Sir, were you about to fly this aircraft? Preston was pale. They said it was ready. It's not ready. It's illegal. Who authorized this flight? The pilot handed over paperwork. Charter company owner, Marcus Brennan. He overrode the red tag without notifying me. The inspector's jaw tightened. That's a federal violation. Preston turned to look at Amara. For the first time, he really looked at her. Not as an inconvenience, not as a server, as a person who had just saved his life. You were right, he said quietly. Amara's legs felt weak. The adrenaline was draining out of her, leaving her hollow. I'm sorry I didn't listen, Preston continued. I'm sorry God, you saved my life. The security guard released her arm. The inspector was on his radio, calling for a full investigation. The pilot was documenting everything. The rotors were winding down. Preston stepped closer. What's your name again? Amara Williams. Amara. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough. I just need to go home. My little brother's sick. Let me give you a ride. It's the least I can do. I'll take the train. Please. His voice was different now. Softer. Humans. I owe you my life. Let me at least get you home safely. Amara was too tired to argue. She nodded. As they walked toward the parking lot, Preston's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then put it away quickly. But Amara saw his expression change. Something was wrong. She didn't know it yet, but the phones in the restaurant had captured everything. The video was already online, and by morning, her life would be completely different. The video hit the internet at 11:47 p.m. Someone at Laurent's had posted it with the caption, "Server risks her job to save billionaire's life." He laughed at her. Watch. By morning, it had 3 million views. Amara woke up to 72 text messages. She scrolled through them in bed, her heart sinking with each one. Friends she hadn't heard from in years. Former classmates. Strangers who'd somehow gotten her number. OMG, are you? You're famous? CNN wants to interview the helicopter girl. The local news was already running the story. Heroic server saves tech CEO from certain death. They used a photo someone had taken of her outside the heliport, exhausted and small next to Preston's expensive car. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Williams? This is Douglas Carter. Amara sat up. Douglas? I'm calling to let you know your suspension has been lifted. The corporate reviewed the footage and, well, they'd like you back, effective immediately. They're also offering you a raise. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt numb. The man I warned almost fired me. He's also the reason you're getting a raise. He called corporate this morning, said some very generous things about you. Amara closed her eyes. When do you need me? Take a few days. You've earned it. After Douglas hung up, another call came through. Preston's assistant. Miss Williams, Mr. Caldwell would like to meet with you. Would tomorrow at 10 a.m. work? What for? He'd like to thank you properly. The coffee shop Preston chose was in a nice neighborhood. The kind of place where a latte cost $8 and came with foam art. He was already there when she arrived, sitting in the corner booth. He stood up when he saw her. Amara, thank you for coming. She sat down. He slid an envelope across the table. I don't know how to properly thank someone for saving my life, but I wanted to start here. She opened it. A check. $50,000. Amara's hands started shaking. I can't accept this. You saved my life. You lost your job trying to warn me. This is the least I can do.
Hey.
Douglas said I got my job back. You did, but that doesn't change what you sacrificed. Preston leaned forward. I also set up a scholarship fund. Full tuition to Northwestern. You mentioned you had to drop out of community college. You shouldn't have to choose between school and survival. Amara couldn't speak. Tears were running down her face. Preston's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. I'm sorry. I have to take this. He stepped outside. Through the window, Amara watched him talk. His body language shifted, tense, angry. When he came back, his face was carefully neutral. Is everything okay? Amara asked. It's fine. Just business. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'll have my assistant send over the scholarship paperwork. They said goodbye on the sidewalk. Preston's car pulled up, black and sleek. Thank you again, Amara. For everything. She watched him drive away. She didn't know that the phone call had been from his lawyer. She didn't know that the charter company was already preparing to sue her. She didn't know that Preston had just been advised to cut all contact. For 3 days, Amara felt like her life was finally changing for the better. Then the lawsuit arrived. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Amara was making breakfast when Destiny brought in the mail. A thick manila envelope with a law firm's name embossed in the corner. Whitmore and Associates. Her hands went cold before she even opened it. Inside, a legal complaint. 37 pages. Marcus Brennan and Brennan Charter Services versus Amara Williams. Charges: defamation, trespassing, interference with business operations, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Damages sought: $2 million. Amara read it 3 times. The words didn't change. According to the lawsuit, she had recklessly and maliciously made false statements about aircraft safety, causing severe reputational harm to Brennan Charter Services. Her unauthorized invasion of heliport property had endangered flight operations and caused psychological trauma to staff and clients. The complaint included security footage of her running across the tarmac, screenshots of the viral video, statements from witnesses claiming she'd caused a scene and created panic. There was a quote from Marcus Brennan himself. Miss Williams's actions, while perhaps well-intentioned, were based on incomplete information and resulted in significant financial and reputational damage to my company. We cannot allow vigilante behavior to threaten aviation safety. Incomplete information. The helicopter had been red-tagged. That was federal record. But the lawsuit claimed the issue had been immediately rectified that morning, that the red tag had been removed by a certified mechanic, that the aircraft was fully airworthy by the time Preston was scheduled to fly. It was a lie, a complete lie. But it was a lie backed by lawyers and money. Amara called the only person she could think of, Uncle Raymond. "They're saying you cleared the helicopter. Did you?" "Hell no. I red-tagged it and went home. That bird was grounded." "They're saying it was fixed." Raymond's voice went hard. "Then someone signed off on maintenance they didn't do. That's fraud. That's criminal. They're suing me for $2 million. Silence on the other end. "Ray, baby girl, you need a lawyer. A real one." The public defender's office smelled like desperation and instant coffee. The lawyer assigned to Amara's case was young, overworked, and honest enough to tell her the truth. "Miss Williams, I'm going to be straight with you. This is a SLAPP suit." "A what?" "Strategic lawsuit against public participation. Big companies use them to silence people who speak out. They don't expect to win. They just want to bury you in legal fees until you give up." "But I was telling the truth. The helicopter was unsafe." "Truth is a defense against defamation. But you still trespassed on private property, and you did interfere with their business operations. They have security footage. They have witnesses." The lawyer shuffled papers. "The trespassing charge alone could stick. And even if we win on the defamation claims, the legal process will take years. Years you'll spend in court, stressed, possibly losing jobs because of the publicity." "What do I do?" "Most people settle. They offer you a small amount. You drop any counterclaims, you sign an NDA, and it goes away." "An NDA?" "You agree never to talk about what happened. Not to the press. Not on social media. Not to anyone." Amara felt sick. "So they're paying me to shut up." "Essentially." "What if I fight it?" The lawyer looked at her with something like pity. "Then you'd better have deep pockets and a strong stomach, because they're going to make your life hell." The video footage appeared online that night. Not the restaurant video. That one had made Amara look like a hero. This one was different. It was security footage from the heliport, edited to remove context. It showed Amara running across the tarmac, shoving past the guard, screaming at Preston. The audio was enhanced to make her sound unhinged. The caption, "Unbalanced server attacks billionaire at private heliport. Should she face criminal charges?" The comments came fast and vicious. She wanted money and attention. This is what happens when poor people get desperate. She probably planned this whole thing. The racist comments were worse. Amara stopped reading after the first dozen. By morning, the narrative had shifted completely. The same news outlets that had called her a hero now questioned her motives. Was helicopter warning a publicity stunt? Servers' claims about aircraft safety under scrutiny. Charter company fights back against reckless accusations. Someone dug up her eviction notice and posted it online. She's broke. She needed a payout. Someone found her community college records. She dropped out. Probably not smart enough to understand aviation safety. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, lawyers, strangers calling to tell her she was a liar, a fraud, a race baiter looking for a settlement. Destiny found her crying in the bathroom. Amara, what's happening? Nothing, I'm fine. You're not fine. Everyone at school is talking about you. They're saying terrible things. Don't listen to them. Why are they doing this? Destiny's voice cracked. You saved his life. Amara didn't have an answer. The call from Douglas came 3 days later. Amara, I'm sorry. Corporate is letting you go. She'd been expecting it, but it still felt like a punch to the stomach. Because of the lawsuit? They said they can't have employees involved in ongoing litigation. It's a liability issue. I was defending their customer. I know. I'm sorry. I fought for you. But they don't care what I think. After he hung up, Amara sat in the silent apartment and did the math. No job, no scholarship. Preston's assistant had called to say the fund was on hold pending legal resolution. The $50,000 was frozen, flagged by the charter company as evidence of damages. Rent was due in 12 days. She had $127 in her account. She started applying to jobs that afternoon. Fast food, retail, gas stations, anywhere that would hire her. Nobody called back. Her name was too recognizable now. That girl from the helicopter. The liability. The troublemaker. At night, she lay awake and wondered if she'd made a mistake. If she should have just stayed quiet, served the food, gone home. Preston Caldwell would be dead. But her siblings would have a home. She didn't know which choice was right anymore. On the 8th day after the lawsuit arrived, another envelope came. This one was different. Expensive paper. A return address in downtown Chicago. Victoria Ashford. Inside was a handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. Dear Miss Williams, I have been watching what they're doing to you. It's wrong. My nephew is a coward. I didn't raise him to hide behind lawyers while a young woman who saved his life is being destroyed. I would like to help, if you'll let me. Please come to my office tomorrow at 2 p.m. We have work to do. Sincerely, Victoria Ashford. At the bottom, a phone number. Amara read the letter 3 times. She didn't know if she could trust Victoria. She didn't know if this was another trap. But she was drowning, and someone had just thrown her a rope. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., she'd find out if it would pull her up or drag her under. Victoria Ashford's office occupied the top floor of a building she owned. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago skyline. The furniture was elegant, but not excessive. Old money didn't need to prove anything. Victoria sat behind a mahogany desk, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when Amara entered. Miss Williams, thank you for coming. She gestured to a chair. Please sit. Amara sat. She'd worn her best clothes, clean jeans and a sweater without holes. She felt small in this space. Victoria removed her glasses. I'm going to be direct. What they're doing to you is unconscionable. My nephew should be ashamed of himself. Have you talked to him? I have. He claims his lawyers advised him not to get involved, that any contact with you could complicate the litigation. Victoria's voice was cold. In other words, He's choosing his comfort over your life. Amara said nothing. I want to help you, Victoria continued, but I need you to be honest with me. Everything you said about that helicopter, was it true? Yes, ma'am. Every word. Your uncle red-tagged it? I saw him do it. I took a photo. Victoria's eyebrows raised. You have a photo? Amara pulled out her phone, found the image. The red tag, the tail number, the timestamp, 7:14 a.m. Victoria studied it. May I send this to my attorney? Yes. Victoria forwarded the photo, then made a call. Richard, I'm sending you something. I need a full investigation into Brennan Charter Services. Everything. Maintenance records, FAA violations, financial ties. She hung up and looked at Amara. I'm hiring you as a real lawyer, someone who specializes in defamation and civil rights, and I'm hiring an investigator. Why are you doing this? Victoria leaned back. I was a secretary once. I watched my boss steal credit for my work for 3 years. When I spoke up, he fired me and blacklisted me. Said it was difficult. She smiled slightly. I spent 2 years clearing my name, and I swore that if I ever had power, I'd protect people who told the truth at great cost. Amara felt something in her chest loosen. You don't owe me anything, Victoria said. Just let me help. The investigator's name was Sarah Carter, former FAA inspector, 20 years of experience. She met with them 4 days later. Marcus Brennan is dirty, Sarah said, spreading files across the conference table. 6 FAA citations in 10 years. Maintenance violations, falsified records, flying overweight aircraft. He pays fines and keeps operating. How is that legal? Amara asked. It's not, but enforcement is complicated. Understaffed agency, expensive lawyers. Sarah pulled out another file. 3 weeks before your incident, Brennan's company was facing bankruptcy. Insurance premiums tripled. He was losing clients. He couldn't afford to cancel any flights. So he was desperate, Victoria said. Exactly. Sarah tapped a page. I pulled the maintenance logs for N847PX. Your uncle's red tag is documented. But 6 hours later, there's a sign-off claiming the hydraulics were repaired. By who? A mechanic named David Torres. I called him. He never worked on that helicopter. Someone forged his signature. Amara's heart raced. That's fraud. Criminal fraud. And it's provable. Sarah slid documents across the table. Torres will testify. So will the pilot from that night. I found 2 other mechanics who say Brennan pressured them to sign off on unsafe aircraft. Victoria's eyes were sharp. What else? Brennan has political connections, city council, state representatives, campaign donations. That's why he avoided consequences. Sarah paused. But the viral video got the FAA's attention. They opened a formal investigation 3 days ago. How long until charges? Victoria asked. Months, maybe longer. They want an airtight case. Victoria stood. Then we accelerate their timeline. A press conference. We present everything. The forged signatures, the violations, the witnesses. Amara's stomach tightened. They'll come after me harder. They're already destroying you. This is how you fight back. Victoria's voice was firm but kind. I'll be standing next to you. You won't be alone. Amara thought about her siblings, about her mother, about every person silenced because they couldn't afford to fight. When? She asked. Victoria picked up her phone. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. We're not giving them time to prepare. Amara nodded. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't just surviving. She was fighting back. The press conference was held in Victoria Ashford's headquarters. The main conference room had been converted into a media space. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled every seat. The major networks were there. Local news. National outlets. Amara stood backstage with Victoria, her hands shaking. I can't do this. Victoria took her hands, steadied them. Yes, you can. Tell the truth. That's all you've ever done. What if no one believes me? They will, because we have proof. Victoria squeezed her hands. And because I'm not going to let them ignore you anymore. At exactly 10 a.m., they walked out together. The camera flashes were blinding. Questions shouted from every direction. Victoria raised her hand and the room quieted. Thank you for coming. My name is Victoria Ashford. 3 weeks ago, a young woman named Amara Williams saved my nephew's life. She warned him that the helicopter he was about to board had been red-tagged for mechanical failure. He didn't listen. She risked everything to stop him anyway. Victoria's voice was calm, authoritative. Every word is measured. That helicopter would have crashed. The FAA has confirmed this. Yet instead of being celebrated, Miss Williams has been sued for $2 million. She's lost her job, her reputation has been destroyed, and she's been subjected to a campaign of harassment designed to silence her. Victoria gestured to the screen behind her. Sarah Carter appeared with the first document. This is the official maintenance log from Chicago Executive Heliport. At 7:14 a.m. on the day in question, Raymond Williams, head of maintenance, red-tagged aircraft N847PX for hydraulic system failure. Federal law prohibits flying a red-tagged aircraft. The document filled the screen. Time-stamped. Official. 6 hours later, this appeared. Sarah displayed another document. A sign-off claiming the hydraulics were repaired. It's signed by David Torres, a certified mechanic. Sarah's expression hardened. Mr. Torres never worked on that aircraft. He was in Milwaukee that day, working a different job. His signature was forged. This is criminal fraud. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Marcus Brennan, owner of Brennan Charter Services, has a history of FAA violations, Sarah continued. 6 citations in 10 years, falsified maintenance records, operating unsafe aircraft. 3 weeks before this incident, his company was facing bankruptcy due to skyrocketing insurance costs. She displayed financial records, bank statements, insurance documents. Mr. Brennan couldn't afford to cancel flights, so he authorized a forged maintenance sign-off and scheduled a flight that would have killed everyone on board. The room erupted. Questions shouted over each other. Victoria raised her hand again. We have witness testimony. The pilot who was scheduled to fly that night. 2 mechanics who say Mr. Brennan pressured them to approve unsafe aircraft. And Mr. Torres himself, who will testify that his signature was forged. Victoria paused, letting the information settle. But this isn't just about one helicopter or one corrupt businessman. This is about a system that protects the powerful and punishes the vulnerable. Amara Williams did everything right. She saw danger. She reported it. She acted with courage. And the system tried to destroy her for it. Victoria's voice grew stronger. She's 19 years old. She's supporting 3 younger siblings. She dropped out of college to keep them fed. And when she saw a stranger about to die, she chose his life over her own survival. That is character. That is integrity. Victoria looked directly into the cameras. I built my career on one principle. Character reveals itself in moments no one is watching. But I was wrong. Character reveals itself most clearly in moments when everyone is watching, and you still choose what's right over what's easy. She let the silence hold for 3 seconds. Integrity isn't expensive. We just refuse to see it in the poor. The room was completely still. Victoria turned to Amara. Miss Williams, would you like to say anything? Amara stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but steady. I didn't do this for attention. I didn't do it for money. I did it because I watched my mother die in a workplace accident when I was 14. Someone ignored a safety warning because it was inconvenient, and she paid for it with her life. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. When I saw that tail number, I knew someone was going to die. I couldn't let that happen, not when I could stop it. She looked at the cameras. I lost my job. I lost my scholarship. My family might lose our home, but Mr. Caldwell is alive, and I'd make the same choice again. The reporters were silent. I just want one thing, Amara continued. I want the next person who sees something wrong to know they won't be destroyed for speaking up. I want workers to be protected when they tell the truth. Because right now, the system protects money, not people, and that has to change. She stepped back. The room exploded. Every reporter was shouting questions. Victoria's attorney, Richard, stepped forward. We're filing a countersuit against Brennan Charter Services for malicious prosecution, abuse of process, and retaliation. We're also requesting a federal investigation into Mr. Brennan's pattern of violations and potential criminal charges for the forged maintenance records. He paused. And we're calling on Preston Caldwell to do the right thing, to stand with the woman who saved his life instead of hiding behind his lawyers. More camera flashes. More questions. Then from the back of the room, someone stood up. Preston Caldwell. The room went silent. He walked to the front, his face pale. He looked at Amara. I owe you my life, and I've spent the past 3 weeks protecting myself instead of you. That was wrong. His voice was thick. My lawyers told me to stay quiet, to let the lawsuit play out. They said any contact with you would complicate things. I listened to them because it was easier than being brave. He turned to face the cameras. Amara Williams saved my life. She lost everything trying to warn me, and instead of standing with her, I let her face this alone. I'm ashamed, and I'm sorry. Preston looked back at Amara. I'm dropping all involvement with any legal action. I'm testifying on your behalf, and I'm making sure the scholarship fund goes through, along with full compensation for everything you've lost. He paused. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's a start. Amara didn't know what to say. She just nodded. The press conference lasted another 30 minutes. Questions, answers, documents distributed. By the time it ended, the story was everywhere. Within 2 hours, Marcus Brennan's lawyer released a statement claiming the allegations were false. Within 4 hours, the FAA announced they were accelerating their investigation and coordinating with federal prosecutors. Within 6 hours, 3 more mechanics came forward with stories about Brennan pressuring them to falsify records. By evening, the hashtag #IStandWithAmara was trending nationally. And in a small apartment on the south side, Destiny, Jordan, and Isaiah watched their sister on the news and cried. 1 week later, Marcus Brennan was arrested on federal charges of fraud, endangerment, and falsifying official documents. Brennan Charter Services filed for bankruptcy. The lawsuit against Amara was dismissed with prejudice. And the FAA announced new whistleblower protections for aviation workers and members of the public who report safety violations. Amara Williams had won. 6 months later, autumn painted the Northwestern University campus in gold and crimson. Amara walked across the quad with her backpack slung over one shoulder, a coffee in her hand, and something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. The scholarship had come through. Full tuition, room and board, a stipend for books. Victoria had made sure of it personally. Amara's major was aviation safety engineering. She'd chosen it the day after the press conference, sitting in her apartment with her siblings, looking at the photo of her mother in her mechanic's uniform. For Mom, Destiny had said. For Mom, Amara had agreed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Raymond. Proud of you, baby girl. Your mama would be too. She smiled and pocketed the phone. The settlement from Brennan Charter Services had been substantial, enough to buy a modest house in a safe neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, a kitchen bigger than a closet. Destiny had her own room now. So did Jordan and Isaiah. Isaiah's fever had been nothing serious, just a cold. But Amara had taken him to a real doctor anyway, because now she could. She could afford to breathe. Her afternoon class was aviation safety policy. The professor was a former FAA investigator who'd mentioned Amara's case on the first day of class. The Williams incident changed federal protocol, he'd said. Whistleblower protections were expanded because one person refused to stay silent. Amara had kept her head down, but later a classmate approached her. "You're her, aren't you? The helicopter girl." Amara had nodded. "That was badass," the classmate had said. It was the first time someone had said that without sarcasm or anger. After class, Amara walked to Victoria's downtown office. They had lunch once a month now. Sometimes they talked about school, sometimes about Victoria's foundation work. Sometimes they just talked. Victoria was waiting in her office, 2 salads already on the table. "How are your classes?" Victoria asked. "Hard, but good." "Your uncle tells me you're top of your class." Amara smiled. "He exaggerates." "He doesn't." Victoria took a bite of salad. "I have something to show you." She pulled out a folder. Inside were incorporation papers. "The Everyday Heroes Fund. It launches next month. We'll provide legal support, financial assistance, and public advocacy for workers who face retaliation for reporting safety violations or corruption." Amara read through the documents. Her throat tightened. "You're on the board of directors," Victoria said. "If you want to be." "You want me?" "You understand what these people go through better than anyone. Your voice matters." Amara looked at the papers. The fund's mission statement. The logo. A small act of courage, amplified. "I'd be honored," she said. Victoria smiled. "Good, because we have our first case. A nurse in Iowa reported unsanitary conditions. She was fired. She needs help." "What do we do?" "We fight for her the way we fought for you." Amara nodded. This was her life now. Not just surviving, not just getting by, building something that mattered, making sure the next person who spoke up wouldn't stand alone. "When do we start?" Amara asked. Victoria's smile widened. "Right now." 3 weeks after the Everyday Heroes Fund launched, an envelope arrived at Amara's campus mailbox. No return address, just her name in careful handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Dear Amara, I've been thinking about what you said at the press conference. That you'd make the same choice again, even knowing what it would cost you. I'm not sure I can say the same about my choices. I've donated to the Everyday Heroes Fund, anonymously. It's not enough to erase what I did or didn't do, but maybe it helps the next person. My aunt removed me from the family foundation board. She was right to. I'm learning what integrity costs. It's harder than I thought. Thank you for the lesson. Preston." Amara read the letter twice. Then she folded it and put it in her desk drawer. She didn't reply. Maybe someday she would. Maybe not. Some apologies didn't need answers. They just needed to be heard. That evening, Amara worked a shift at a campus cafe. She didn't need the money anymore, but she liked the work, the rhythm, the simplicity. A freshman came to the counter, anxious, counting coins. "How much for a sandwich?" the girl asked. $6. The girl counted again. "I only have $4.50. Amara rang it up. "It's on me today." "Really?" "Really. Just pass it forward when you can." The girl's face lit up. "Thank you." Amara watched her sit down with the sandwich, and she thought about the moment in Laurent's when she'd made a choice that changed everything. She'd learned that kindness wasn't free. It cost something. But justice meant making sure it cost the right people, and opportunity meant opening doors for those who came after. She smiled. Her shift wasn't over yet. What would you do in Amara's situation? Have you ever had to choose between doing what's right and protecting yourself? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life inspired stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And hey, share this video with someone who needs to hear that courage matters, because the next person who speaks up shouldn't have to stand alone. See you in the next story.